I'm Amy Henderson. We are live in the hall at the Georgia Municipal Association, and with me is Douglasville Mayor Mickey Thompson, we are really blessed at GMA to have a very active, basically group of volunteers who give their time and efforts to helping all the cities around Georgia and helping GMA on committees and stuff. And you are certainly one of those that has really put in a lot of time and effort with GMA, and of course we really appreciate it. What you've been on the GIRMA board, the Workers' Comp board, risk. GMEBs. There's so many alphabets. I can't remember all the combination of all these letters. But and then you've also served in policy committee. What made you want to get so involved in all of these?
Well, you know, Amy, not only is it good for GMA when you have local officials that are involved, but it's also good for the cities, because at GMA is always at the forefront of what's happening, really, in the state, which means at the forefront of what's happening in the cities. And there's a vacuum if you're not involved. But if you're at GMA, you're attending the meetings, then you're a better elected official, in my opinion, to help your state, because we are elected to help people. And what you don't know, you cannot help them with. And it gives you a better reservoir of tools to work with when you're back at your city. So,
and is there any reason that those particular, I know you've been very involved with our whole risk management and the workers' comp and all, was there anything that really drove your interest in those? I mean, I guess your city is a member of these programs.
We are, and you know, one of the things that elected officials, they're almost constantly encouraged to use local insurance companies, and my wife's an insurance agent, so I know. And there's
does
a lot of.
Does she solicit your business? Yes.
She does, but I tell her we're using all of the GMA plans, and really they're structured for cities.
Right.
But elected officials do come under a lot of pressure to insure with local agents and those kind of things. The advantage of the GMA programs, they are geared just for cities, the structure of cities. And it's important, from my perspective, to use all of those programs that we can. And all of our insurance programs, retirement program, they're all through GMA.
Right.
And
but I think one of the benefits, as you said, is it is geared towards cities, but it's geared towards cities with city officials being involved in designing those plans, so that hopefully cities are getting exactly what it is that they need.
Well, you're exactly right. They're involved in designing and administering the programs, but probably the most important thing is you're an owner. It's like a mutual insurance company that each city is an owner, and they have voting rights.
And so you have a vested interest in keeping those claims down.
You do, absolutely, because GMA and all of the programs that are offered to cities through GMA, it's not for profit. All of the profit and the investments all go back into the pool, which lowers the rates. And that's how GMA, one of the ways GMA is able to keep the rates
And then
down.
you were chair of the Municipal Government Committee for a while.
I was, and Bill Osborne, our city manager, we were talking the other day, and he had done a little research on all the things that came before the committee, and it was annexation, and it was all kinds
of fun stuff.
Yeah, so it was a good time. We did have annexation, and during the time I was a policy committee chair, that's when GMA and ACCG, which for our viewers of the Association of County Officials and City Officials, worked together to agree on a new law that controls annexation. So,
and that seems to be working really well. I think there were a lot of issues, a lot of headbutting going on over annexation, and I think that new law has helped to control that and make it a more, I guess, deliberative process.
Absolutely.
Now, how long have you been mayor in Douglasville?
This is my 12th year. I was a city council member for 4 years prior to that.
And you have announced that you are not going to seek re-election.
I am not. 16 years at the end of this year. And, you know, it's a hard decision to make, I'll be quite honest with you, because you try to work and you try to start a lot of programs that will help those who live in our cities. And you want to make sure that those that you've started that have not been completed yet You want to see them completed. But there's a time when you have to step back. And I believe in term limits. And
so you're doing
I'm self-imposing term limits. And I've always said if it's good enough for the President of the United States and the Governor of the State of Georgia, it's good for the Mayor of the City of Douglasville and the council members.
What things are you most proud of in the time that you've been in office that have been accomplished?
In our city, we've been able to do a lot of things. We've had a lot of good council members that supported the initiatives. We've had a number of capital projects. We've had more capital projects during that 12-year period than we've ever had in the history of the city of Douglasville. And one of the other things I'm very proud of is even in this tough economic environment that we're all in, and we all see it in our personal lives, in our businesses, and certainly in operation of city government, it's a struggle.
Yeah.
But I'm very proud, and we're not a large city. We're about 32,000 citizens. We have approximately a $29 million general fund budget. But we underspent the budget this year by about $800,000. We have approximately $10 million in reserve, which could run the city for 7-8 months if you didn't bring in a penny. That kind of reserve is probably proportionately to the size of the city is maybe one of the largest in the state. So I think if there's ever a good time to step away, you always want to leave your city and your environment better than you found it.
Now,
and
what compelled you to run in the first place?
Now this is a long story, but I'll condense it a little bit. I worked in the U.S. Attorney's Office, worked out of town for 24 years, but was always keenly aware of what was going on in our community and our city. Well, we actually lived in the county, the unincorporated area, for quite a while. And we built a new house in a new subdivision. My daughter was probably, 12 years old, 10 years old, something like that. And she said, "Dad, you've moved into the city." She had read the newspaper.
Oh, wow.
There was a city council seat that was open. And she said, "Dad, you have talked a lot about improving the city and the things you would do." And she issued me a challenge. "Dad, you need to think about running for this seat." And so out of the mouth of babes came a challenge. And that's how, and I decided, she's right. You shouldn't complain unless you're willing to roll up your sleeves and get in and try to solve the problem.
And I have great admiration for people who take on elected office because, there's just no way you're ever going to make everybody happy. So you have to, I guess, learn to have a thicker skin and I guess build coalitions as well. What have been some of the bigger challenges since you've been?
Well, we've certainly, the budget situation and the financial situation lately has been a real challenge. But it's always a challenge providing good government service, and that's really all cities. That's the primary focus of cities, is being able to provide service. And I tell our folks all the time, we don't manufacture anything. We want to operate like a company, but we don't make anything. The only thing we have to offer and to sell, if you think about it, the taxpayer is buying that service from us, is good service. And the challenge is to be able to provide that service without increasing the property tax or the tax burden on the citizens, continue to improve that service level, and do it all with basically the same staff that you have. And we've got a great staff.
Oh, you do?
And just to show you how good they are, we have fewer employees on the payroll we had than when I became mayor, but we grew by 59% in population. So these folks that you see here today that are from the city of Douglasville are providing more with the less resources available to
and
them.
I think, the other folks on your staff as well, your city manager has been very involved with GMA's City Manager Advisory Council in our policy committee meetings. Of course, your TV crew, they're here. They're amazing to work with. But Marcia in the downtown development, she's been president of the Downtown Development Association
for the state.
Yeah,
that's right.
For the state. You've got people working in Douglasville who are certainly the top of the professional level.
And you're exactly right. There is no credit that as an elected official I can take credit for, nor my city council when you think about it. we set policy like all city councils, and then we have professional staff that implement and carry out the day-to-day activities of the city. And as you said, we have a remarkable group of folks, and that is the primary reason that we're able to provide good service to the citizens of Douglasville.
Now, what are your plans for, retirement?
Well,
is this really retirement?
When I did my State of the City address and told folks that I was not running for re-election, the reporter came up and talked to me, and she says, "Now, what are you going to run for next?" And I said, "What I told you is exactly what I do plan to do," and it really is, and I'm like everyone else. I'm 64 years old, and I have a bucket list. Remember the movie? Bucket List? A number of things that I would like to do, none more important than family. I have 3 grandsons and a beautiful wife. And
spend some time with all of them, because I'm sure that your duties over the last several years have taken some time away from that.
They are. We have the form of government that's called weak mayor, strong city manager form of government, which typically means that the elected folks set policy and they go home and go back to their job, and in 2 weeks they'll come back and do some other
How's everything
things.
going?
But in our city, it's a little bit different. The people expect you to be there every day, and they expect to drop by, and if they've got a problem, that you're going to help them with that. So although structure-wise it's not a full-time job, to really do a good job, I believe it is.
Right. So what are some of the things on your bucket list?
Well, a number of things. I drive a race car as a hobby, basically, with the Sports Car Club of America. I've never won a national championship. I've won regional championships here and state championships in various states. But I'd like to do that before I ride off.
That would be cool,
into the sunset. Elected folks don't make a whole lot of money. I retired from the U.S. Attorney's Office in 2003 with an early retirement. So I plan to work. I plan to continue working. I'm a licensed insurance agent. I have a property and casualty license in the life and health. And my wife is an insurance agent with State Farm Insurance in Douglasville. So I plan to help her in her business.
Very good.
And that will generate additional revenue for us.
For your racing.
Absolutely.
Your racing habit.
There is a motive to that.
I say a race car is like horses.
It is.
Just a big money pit.
There's a formula on how to figure out how much it takes to operate a racing team. Work out the budget, double it, and add 10%, and you may be close to what it actually takes.
My husband keeps complaining every time I bring home another free horse.
Exactly.
No such thing.
There are no free horses.
No. So, anything else on the list of things you're going to be?
Well, there are a lot of things. I still hope that I have an opportunity to help our community in any way, and I do stand committed to the city, the county, and to GMA. And I've told everyone
we'll call on
here,
you. Don't you worry.
If there's any way I can help, I'm not planning to retire and go to Florida or Alabama or some of the other places. I plan to continue to live in Douglasville, and anything I can do.
We appreciate that. And one final question. One thing we hear a lot, especially this time during these years where it is a year of municipal elections, there are communities where it's so hard to find people willing to run for office, willing to put their name on the ballot and then do the work of an elected official as a council member or a mayor. How do you think, or where do you find that leadership? How do you develop leadership in a community? How do you get people interested and encouraged to take on those roles?
I go to a lot of schools. Any invitation I get to go to a school, I always try to do that. And oftentimes I'm invited to talk to various government classes, and those are seniors, typically, either 11th or 12th graders. So I think it starts early. And I had a situation where I was talking to a class one time at Chapel Hill High School. They called me, they invited me, and it was one of their government-type classes. And I thought, these guys don't want to hear anything I've got to say. So I put a presentation together. I went down, and I noticed in the audience they had newspapers in their lap. And I thought that was pretty unusual. And then when it got to Q&A time, they would read various articles or comments that I had made, and they'd say, "Now, what were you talking about here? Or how did that work? Or why did you do this?" So getting into the schools, I think, is important. I
Mm-hmm.
think being involved in various civic organizations to keep the public aware of what's going on and maybe raise it to the level of concern that they
Right.
might want to become involved. I think that you need to operate your government so, certainly you don't have any negative things about your community where we hear oftentimes criticism about public officials, but I try always to conduct myself and our city in a professional way so people will not be hesitant about serving as an elected official.
So they'd actually be proud of their position and be glad that they're
I
involved.
try to do that, yes.
Well, Mayor, thank you so much. We're certainly going to miss you at GMA, but we know you won't be a stranger, and we know where you live.
Well, thank you, and I'm going to miss you. I'm going to miss GMA and all of the wonderful people that I've been associated for these many years.
Well, thank you for your service with us. We
You're very
appreciate
welcome.
it. Thank you.
You're welcome.